Ladies and gentlemen, in today's video, I am going to be giving you my top 14 fantasy football picks for the upcoming season. The reason I'm picking 14 is because that's the size of the league I'm used to being in. And also, I will be drafting these off of a 0.5 PPR basis because that's my league. However, if you're full PPR or standard, I still think these will be incredible picks. Listen, I know I'm going to get mogged for some of these picks, but I got credentials in the fantasy world. 2 seasons ago, I won a championship. Last year, I was 1 game away from the championship. Like 3 seasons ago, I outscored my entire league and missed the playoffs. That is an accolade I'm not sure anybody else in the world has accomplished. So agree with me or not, I'm just trying to put you guys in the best position possible for the upcoming fantasy year. Super quick plugs before we hop into it. Don't forget to use code WW10 to save yourself a discount on any of Waggle's awesome products. And also don't forget to use code WyattzWorld at sign up on Prize Picks to guarantee yourself a free $50 with your first $5 entry. Reminder, there is a messy guaranteed pick for the upcoming game this Sunday. All he needs is 1 passing attempt for the entry to win, so if you want to play, take advantage of it. Regardless, always remember to play responsibly, and let's get into my top 14 fantasy football picks. Okay, guys, so starting off with round 1, pick 1, the number 1 overall pick in any type of league, if you're asking me, should be none other than Jahmyr Gibbs. And yes, I said Jahmyr Gibbs because he is him. I mean, not only is he probably the best, the most explosive, the most productive runner in the league, but now he's in a position where David Montgomery is not there, which is only going to lead to more touches and more action for Gibbs. Sure, they have Pacheco, but I don't see him taking anything away from Gibbs other than what is mandatory. And I know Detroit has a great offense with talent all around, but this is still a running back who just ran for 1,200 yards and 13 touchdowns on top of 70-some receptions. I think his usage will only escalate this year, therefore I think his statistics and fantasy points will do the same. I'm taking Jahmyr Gibbs at 1 overall. Coming in at pick number 2 on this list, we have Bijan Robinson. Listen, I mean, him and Gibbs can be completely interchangeable. I don't really think there is a wrong answer other than the fact that I think Gibbs is just in a much better position. I think Bijan is going to get probably just as much work as Gibbs, but I don't think he's going to have the scoring opportunities that Gibbs is going to have this year. Like last year, sure, 1,400 rushing yards was great compared to Gibbs's 1,200, but Gibbs also had almost twice the amount of touchdowns as Bijan. And with his team not being in the best position, especially the quarterbacks on that team, I just can't say I see the touchdowns really changing for Bijan. You would hope they would, but getting him in scoring position is a whole nother battle. Now moving on to pick number 3 of round 1, give me Ja'Marr Chase. And I know you might want JSN, you might want Puka, and I'll tell you right now, it's okay if you draft them. I'm not going to say you're wrong. I just personally believe Ja'Marr Chase is the deadliest fantasy football receiver when he has his quarterback present. Now, obviously, you can't draft a player assuming, oh, Joe Burrow's going to get hurt, I don't want him, because nobody can actually tell the future. But even if Burrow does get hurt again, Ja'Marr Chase's floor still going to be like 100 receptions for 1,200 yards and 7 touchdowns. There's no way he doesn't get the ball the most on his team. He's too talented. He's too good. And like I previously mentioned, with the amount that this guy just naturally overachieves, I mean, on a bad week, he's still getting you double-digit points, even if he doesn't score a touchdown. I just feel like with the Bengals' schedule, with Joe Burrow, you know, assuming he is going to be healthy this season, Ja'Marr Chase is going to explode even more than he already has, and he will finish as the wide receiver 1 in fantasy football. Moving on to pick number 4 out of round 1, give me JSN out of Seattle. Look, he has an extremely high upside. There's really no way this pick can go negative. It's one of the safest picks out of anybody to choose. I mean, knock on wood, literally the only way I can think that this pick would go sour is if he got hurt. But we're also talking about a receiver who has never missed an NFL game in 3 seasons. He's one of the best players in the league, no doubt about it. This is not a shot on him. This is not a shot on the Seahawks. This is not a shot on Sam Darnold. I just literally think Ja'Marr Chase is going to have a bigger fantasy year. And yes, I do have to say this every time I talk about the Seahawks because you're the only fan base where if I predict your team to go to the playoffs, I'm still disrespecting you. Moving on to pick number 5, give me Puka Nacua out of the Rams. Listen, again, you can't go wrong with picking Puka Nacua. Stellar season last year, stellar athlete, stellar wide receiver. I just personally hesitate to pick players early on when there is another player on that offense that has a potential to take so much away from them, that being Davante Adams. Like, yeah, Puka had 1,700 yards and 10 touchdowns last year. That's phenomenal. But Davante Adams also caught 14 touchdowns of his own. That sounds like an anxiety attack every single time your team touches touches the red zone. I'm not calling you wrong if you pick Puka any earlier than this. I'm simply giving my reasons as to why I would struggle to take him any earlier than pick number 5, which is still incredibly early. Moving on to pick number 6, give me Jonathan Taylor out of the Colts. Listen, the only bad thing about JT is you don't have a ton of receiving upside. You have some, but not as much as guys like Jahmyr Gibbs and Bijan Robinson. But what you do get with JT is an absolute bell cow, a workhorse, one of the most unstoppable runners, and undoubtedly the guy who is going to see the most action on the offense on that team. Statistically, assuming he doesn't get hurt, and even if he does miss a few games, he's going to pound the rock over 300 times. He's going to have double-digit touchdowns. He's going to have well over 1,000 rushing yards. He will undoubtedly finish as one of the best fantasy football running backs, and I think he is well worth an early first-round selection. Now moving on to pick number 7, give me Amon-Ra St. Brown out of the Detroit Lions. Look, this guy's a workhorse. He's a reception machine. He's an obvious wide receiver 1 on his team. I don't think you can go wrong by picking St. Brown, but my hesitation on picking him any earlier is because I'm not convinced that he is the solidified number 1 option on that offense. Obviously, I'm comparing him to Gibbs there. I feel like Gibbs is going to be the guy, the plan. And with your first overall pick, I think it's kind of important that you're getting a player who is going to be the most used player on a team. With that being said, I still think St. Brown will get over 100 receptions. He's still going to have a great season, but I do expect St. Brown fantasy owners to have a little bit of a headache playing on the same team as Jahmyr Gibbs. Kind of a Puka Devontae Adams situation. It's going to benefit for you, but I feel like it's going to bring a lot of anxiety. Now moving on to pick number 8, give me Christian McCaffrey out of the San Francisco 49ers. Now listen, I understand you're gambling slightly on his health here, but I think he's worth the gamble. Just make sure to draft his backup if you get him, dude. Last year, this guy had 102 receptions as well as 1,200 rushing yards. That is 2 players in one. He was arguably the most productive player in the league last year when it just comes to generating overall offense. I still think he's a phenomenal running back. To be honest, the only reason that he's this low on the list is because I know the 49ers are actually going to have a competent receiving room. George Kittle will be back eventually. They're not going to need to rely on Christian McCaffrey for absolutely everything like they did last year, but I still expect him to be the most used player on that offense. Now moving on to pick number 9, give me Justin Jefferson, a guy that, has to go in the first round. He's one of the best receivers in football. Everybody knows it, but you are taking a slight gamble on his quarterback situation and what his predicament will be this year. Are you going to get the Jefferson that goes out there and catches for 1,800 yards? Or are you going to get the Jefferson that goes out there with the worst quarterback situation in the world where he has to scratch and claw for 1,000 yards and 2 touchdowns? He's a guy that has an unlimited ceiling and a guy that has an obnoxiously high floor. Moving on to spot number 10, give me CeeDee Lamb. I think one of the biggest mistakes people can think right now is that George Pickens just came in and took his job or something. Dude, CeeDee for 1 missed 3 games last season, but for 2 has been one of the best wide receivers in fantasy wide receivers in football over like the last 5 to 6 seasons. Now, I will say the one minor drawback of having CeeDee Lamb is the guy doesn't really score a ton of touchdowns, but he'll still get you on average a good 6, plus the massive amount of yards and receptions that he's going to acquire. Like, Dak is not gonna forget about this guy. I still think he's the number 1 option on that team, and I still think he's one of the best fantasy players you could possibly get out of the first round. Moving on to spot 11, give me James Cook. I mean, realistically, it's kind of hard to not grab him higher thinking about what he's accomplished the last 2 seasons. But with Buffalo actually, having a receiving room that I think is going to be capable of wiping their own asses again, I'm not sure James Cook is going to get 300 carries again. A matter of fact, I'm willing to bet he doesn't. However, I still think he's going to score 10 touchdowns on the year. Buffalo loves him in the red zone. Moving on to spot number 12, give me Devon Achane out of Miami. Look, if you're trying to draft a player that you get to watch grind every single week with guaranteed usage every single week, this is going to be the best player for you to draft out of the entire thing. There is not a single offensive player in the league right now who is going to touch the ball more than him this year because they don't have a choice in Miami. He is all they have. On top of that, he is elite. He's a top 5, top 3 running back in football, in my opinion. Fantasy and real life are 2 different things, remember that. But in fantasy, as much work as I know he's gonna get, I'm concerned about the fact that he doesn't have a team to support him. Like, I have no idea what to expect from him in terms of touchdowns, but I believe the amount of yards he's gonna tally up from the usage that he gets, he will be one of the best fantasy players of the season. Pick 13, give me Ashton Genty. He had 1,300 total yards and 10 total touchdowns last year in one of the worst offensive systems in football. Super Bowl winning offensive coordinator combined with an O-line that has been rebuilt from the ground up. Ashton also, you know, being the two-way kind of player that he is and the receivers there being terrible. I'm expecting Ashton Genty to be a league winner this year. Do not sleep on him. I'm telling you that now. And moving on to pick 14, this one might get some head scratches, just trust me. I got A.J. Brown out of the Patriots. I think one of the biggest misconceptions going around is that this guy is old and washed. Brother, he is 29. He just turned 29. And he is now going on a team that just played in the Super Bowl with a quarterback who just gave Stephon Diggs over 1,000 yards when he only played 55% of the offensive snaps at the age of 32. Talk about old. I would be willing to bet he goes over 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns this year. It's going to be a monster year for A.J. Brown. And that is going to be all for today's video. Ladies and gentlemen, let me know what you think of my picks and let me know what you would have done differently. As always, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did and you want to show support, please do it because you know I appreciate any and all help. However, in the meantime, I'm going to get this whipped up so you guys can all watch it on time. I hope you have a fantastic weekend, and I will see you in the next upload.